all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist-recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.
Now,
the No Fruit Podcast.
yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Maurice.
And this is Kafa.
We thank you for tuning in today. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Thank you for tuning in today. This is Maurice.
Hey, hey.
And that is Kafa.
Hey, hey.
And we would like to talk to you today about... Well, what do you want to talk about today, Kafa?
Whatever you want to talk about, baby.
Okay. So, I don't have a whole lot to say today. So, what do y'all have to say out there? Okay.
I don't hear nothing.
Not right now. So, here's what we will talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we have been trying to talk to our kids about, or our children about, is determining where you're going in your life. We notice that there are certain cultures that kind of push their children in a certain direction. And at times, I felt like the way we raised our own kids was incorrect because they had a little more freedom, I guess, in choosing their own path. And so while they're in school, their path has not always been smooth. And sometimes I relate it to them not being focused 100% or where they want to go or what they want to do and who they want to be when they grow up, things like that. And I've heard way too many times where people have said, you know what, you're not going to be able to make up your mind until you get into school and all those type of things, which on one hand I agree with. Sometimes you don't know. You don't always know. And then something changed, right? I personally, because remember I started off by saying I looked at other cultures and how they push their children into a certain direction. But then something changed because for those of you who don't know, I did start going back to school. I am pursuing my bachelor's degree, finishing off. I have my associate's degree. As most of you know, I've done some consulting work for the last 10 years. And it's time for me to finish off some things that I had started. And for me to take my business to another level. So I have going back to school at the Fox School of Business. And what I realized in going back to school on how focused these young people are, that has nothing to do with their culture, their race, ethnicity, or whatever, and how Fox has pushed them in a certain direction based off of what they're going to school for. most of it is business oriented, but you have people that wants to be accountants, financial advisors, supply chain management, sports and tourism stuff, whatever it is, hospitality, whatever it is. Immediately, as soon as I got into their school, the first thing they had done was put me in a professional development class, which it was funny at first, but I realized how relaxed I had become in understanding my own growth, my own dreams, desires, wishes, or whatever. And so ultimately it started making me look at my children like, hey, you know what? Are y'all focused enough to compete with these other people that are the same age as you are? Are you really equipped to compete with these other people?
Right. I mean, it's something I think, as you said, I've heard others say, and sometimes it's comedians, so who knows how true it is, but hey, when they're born and they are given a name, they're also given a career. Mm-hmm. Here is my son, Maurice, whom will be a doctor.
Right.
Here is my daughter, Janae, whom will be a lawyer.
Right.
And they're all given professions that one are and linked with a decent salary. They're all given professions that require higher education. Mm-hmm. They're all given professions that can be entrepreneurial or corporate. So that's what some other cultures do, and they, there's no other thought you have to be a doctor, lawyer type of a person. There's no other choice. And if you go against it, then you go against the family, you go against your parents, and sometimes lose that family connection because they will denounce you in some manner. Where again, here, we don't do that as much, and we did not do that with our children. Again, like you said, we kind of were free to select what you wanted to select as a vocation. My mom and my father, the same, did not say, hey, this is what you are going to be. I was able to select something on my own now. Here and there, conversations growing up, my mom wanted me to be a professional or whatever. I guess, again, so not to have some of the struggles that we went through growing up. But never was it like, oh, well, you are this. This is whom you shall be. And I'm going to call you that. And I'm, just like I call your name Maurice, I'm going to call you doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
This is my son Maurice, the future doctor. So can you imagine? I mean, our kids now tell us how much pressure we've put on them growing up. I can't imagine what that pressure was like if we would have said, here is my son Maurice, who is a future doctor, every time we introduce them to someone new. Or even to say he's a promising, individual, whatever, it gives them, you're speaking life into it, so it's kind of a double thing, like you want to speak life into them and give them a leg up to know, hey, you can become these, you're the future president, you're the future of this. And so you have that in your mind, but then it's also that pressure, again, like, hey, if I don't do well, will my parent still be proud of me? That type of a thing. So can you be happy in achieving a goal or an ambition that's not yours?
Right.
I guess you can. People do it, but I think it means so much more when it's your own. Like you said, hey, you now are at this point where you're ready to continue your education. Somebody could have pushed you, years ago and said, no, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Right.
But what would you have learned? And I think that's my thing. It's like, hey, if you keep going and you're not absorbing it, then it's just for naught. And then, does that make things harder later on?
So I think part of that, what is your goal for your family? What is the ambition for your family? And ultimately, how do you view, I guess, in some ways, your last name? So does your last name mean something? As you continue on in life, do you want your last name to outlive you, quote unquote, being the family name, heritage, or whatever? So, when we talk about this generational wealth, part of that generational wealth is understanding, hey, what's going to happen moving forward. Sometimes we could teach financial literacy, and that's just basically how to handle your money today, so you can have some money when you retire, and you'll be okay, because some people, that's how they look at it, or are you saying, hey, are you trying to build generational wealth so that way 3, 4, 5 lines down the road, they are able to still feed themselves and their families. Now, some people feel like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that. I'm worried about today because I can't spend the money, 200 years from now. But where some people are like, hey, I want my name to last. So, and I've had way more people that's like, I'd rather just live paycheck to paycheck, idea wise, than it is to say, hey, and I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying your desire is totally to be rich and wealthy or whatever, but, you would have to get to that point once if you're trying to build generational wealth. And you hear that a lot today. You hear that term put out there a lot today, but what are you doing to build that? When you have those families that have encouraged their kids, you know what, you're going to be a doctor, right? What has happened? I mean, these are just my own experiences and or opinions. For some of those individuals, when everybody's a doctor and, each one of them are making at least 6 figures, because keep in mind, all doctors are not in 6 figures. We are, hopefully everybody understands that not all doctors are 6 figures. But if you're close enough to 6 figures, that means each one of them are financially secure, stable, whatever else. Also, on top of that, some of their benefits and how their benefits support that family and or community that they are in. Because some of them are professional and they hold the insurance, health insurance for everybody while they're coming into the country or whatever the situations are. You get what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, some people are holding that type of responsibility, but what does it do? It builds up that family community that in some ways, unfortunately, us as Black people are not always pushing or supporting. A lot of us are kind of like, I got mine, you got to get your mentality. And truth be told, I mean, there's some ways that, Kav, you and I have put that in our kids, especially when they start messing up in school and things like that. It's like, look, you got to get yourself together. But then there's other ways where we're like, yo, we're here for you. We're going to support you. Mm-hmm. So we might not stay in that you got to get your mindset where you're totally by yourself. We might say it initially for the shock value. You get what I mean? And then, and then kind of like leave them alone for a second, like, oh, wow, I got to do whatever. And then we come back and be like, all right, come on, let's go. Versus dictating to them from the very beginning. So I think when it comes down to this, we talked about a couple of episodes ago about financial literacy. I think that's what it comes down to as we're looking at ambitions and goals and dreams and things like that for not just us, but our kids. Me going back to school, yes, it benefits me, but in my opinion, because of what I'm doing, it's going to affect not just myself and not just you, Kav, but everyone around us.
Right. And then, all those in the future, like your children and your children's children, like it will impact all of those generationally.
Right.
One thing I want to say about goals, I think like financial literacy, goals and ambition is not something that's like taught in school.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah, they expect for you to graduate and go to college or get a job, start a career, but they don't go over those goals. They don't make it a goal. I think a few teachers have, like, hey, little Johnny, like, I think one year, I forget what school it was, when that class came in, the principal had kind of said, hey, you are the graduating class of, and said the year, and made them continually say that so that there was no issue with, hey, I'm going to be done this in 4 years, or I'm going to be done this in, however many years it would take if you're in elementary school, that type of a thing. So they really, really pushed that as a goal to graduate by that year.
Right.
So when that group gathered, that principal would always address them as the future class of whatever. So you had that constantly, again, similar to what we just said, with, hey, this is my son Maurice, the future doctor. They always addressed that class as the graduating class of whatever year.
Right.
So when you consistently hear that, it kind of stays there with you. It's like you're watering that plant, that seed, for it to grow. So I think that's a good thing. But again, outside of that, I can call that to you. I can call you a future doctor. I can call you the future class of, 2099. But if I'm not telling you and helping you understand what does it take to get to that goal, what are the action steps? What are the things that you have to do to reach a goal? You don't just set a goal and that's it. And I think that's where a lot of our generation is lacking. It's like, oh, I want to learn how to drive. I want my license. And it's like, okay, what do you have to do to get there?
Right.
They don't know. They don't know. I want to start my own business. Okay, well, what do you have to do that?
Right.
They have no clue. They can set goals.
Right.
Because that's what our society puts out. Relationship goals, marriage goals, these goals. Like, it's all these goals, but nobody says what it takes to have a good marriage. Nobody says what it takes to get through college. Nobody says what it takes to get through 12 years of education. Nobody's talking about all of those steps. Even to get to college, nobody's talking about, okay, you got to put an application. You got to figure out how you're going to finance it. How are you going to get there? How are you going to get back? What more? It's just so much more to it outside of just having that goal or that ambition.
So how do you set someone up when you were not put in that position yourself? I mean, because we all understand that school is not set up that way. School is really just set up for you to have a job, to be honest. So, and then with that job, what comes with that job? So some people might find something that they like, but, but you're not setting a goal to say, hey, my goal is to be the CEO of that company. No one's putting that idea out there. It's enough to, and I can't remember how the person put it the other day, and I agree with it, where school, even college, even what I'm going through right now, they are definitely setting us up to be within a business setting strictly. Right now, it might, the goal is to have you in leadership and not necessarily someone that's on a lower rung, right?
Okay.
But it's but school is not really setting you up for you to set those real goals like that, in my opinion. Right. It's just like, hey, we're just setting, here's some information. Here's the best way to memorize this information so that way you can memorize how to do your job effectively.
And again, if we want to get into be somewhat conspiracy type theorist or whatever, you want to look at, school is government funded. And the government is benefited by you working.
Right.
So it's all connected.
You're right.
So I'm going to teach you how to, like you said, get a job, pay taxes. The taxes will pay for government. The government will put a portion back to education, which will continually teach people to get a job, pay taxes, so forth and so on.
Right.
So no, there's no one that's going to say, hey, you don't have to pay taxes and you don't have, or you can pay minimum taxes and so forth, because it's set up that there is a set amount that you pay tax-wise when you work a basic 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And it's different when you are an entrepreneur or, not working at all.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, we'll consistently look down at those that don't work at all because they're not paying into the system.
Right.
So that's what it is. So, again, I think goals and ambitions are great, but I think we need to know how to reach those. If not, then they're just goals and ambitions, and how do we ever get close to them if we don't know what steps there are to take to get there?
I totally agree. So some of this, I just wonder how many of you out there have been put into your own kids, setting their own goals and dreams, and understand that those things can be attainable.
Or even just into yourselves. Everyone may not have kids that are listening, but just into yourself.
Well, I understand that everyone may not have own biological kids, right? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, right? When I take a look at one of our instructors, so those of you who know, we grew up in church, right? We had a cotillion and a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous lady by Ladiva Davis, who was our choreographer for the cotillion. She just passed away at the age of 78. Here's the reality. There are some things that she taught us, because she did not have her own kids. This is what I mean by those that may not have had their own biological kids. But she taught us and stressed to us excellence, standing upright with your shoulders back, your head up, not to slouch. Like little things like that, I remind myself about that today. So that's what I mean by, everyone may not have their own biological kid. So I just want people to understand what I meant by that. But Kaf, I also agree with you that, some of this needs to go for the individual too.
Right, because like you said, how do you teach somebody else how to do it if you haven't done it yourself?
Right.
So I think having your own experience helps you to be a better teacher, because you can teach and you can talk from your own know-how, whether you went through it and you did it wrong,
right,
or you went through it and you passed with flying colors, or whatever. So I think, definitely start with yourself. If you want to talk about goals and ambitions, like that's a goal right there. I'm going to start talking to myself about goals.
Right.
I'm going to figure out a goal and I'm going to figure out steps to reach that goal. Hey, whether it's eating better, whether it's exercising, whether it's talking to family members, whatever that is, whether it's going back to school, whether it's, driving at the speed limit, whatever your goal is,
right.
But what steps do you take to do that? So.
And so for those of you out there, before we sign off, if you need something to help you with that, and just to kind of write your ideas out there, be sure you could buy my book, Well, Why Not, now on Amazon. It helps you with your goals, your dreams, your pain points, and what happens after that is for you to document your journey to get into that point. So, you can support the channel by purchasing that book today on Amazon. But Kyle, one other thing I want to say before we sign off. In the very beginning of this episode, when I said, "Hey, what should we talk about?" and we had that moment of silence, right? I think that's what happens when we have this type of conversation. People now don't know where to begin. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. People don't know what it means to have goals, which is what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
What is that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is it that you need to do to get to that point? And a lot of it is because we're not taught that from at a young age.
Right.
So, so that's all I got to say for today, Kav.
All right. Please share your goals and your ambitions with us, or what steps you're taking to reach those. So we're looking forward to hearing from you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, y'all.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Don't forget that your skin is your largest organ, and the sun can be your skin's worst enemy. Dermatologist recommended Neutrogena products offer the ultimate protection for your skin. From makeup remover wipes to Hydro Boost Water Gel Facial Moisturizer, BJ's has your entire lineup of Neutrogena skincare products. And now through December 3rd, save $4 on any Neutrogena product at BJ's. Love your skin back and save now through December 3rd, only at BJ's.